Good evening, my name is Carol. I'm the cake designer and founder of Alice & Rosa Cake Design, and welcome to Buttercream for Beginners. And this is our third and last class. So in this class, we're going to talk about consistency, okay? The consistency, the different consistencies of buttercream and how to work with them, because they are essential to achieve that smooth finish that we all look for, right, in our cakes, okay? As a recap, on the first day, we talked about the types of buttercream. We talked about the methods, which one is my preferred method. We talked about flavoring buttercream, color buttercream. Yesterday, we spoke about, in fact, I taught you how to calculate the right amount of buttercream for your cake size. So I showed you a technique, important measurements that you need to have to calculate how much buttercream you need. We spoke about storage, and this class tonight is focused solely on consistency. Okay, so I get a lot of questions, and I know that it is something that is a big struggle of all of you. It's how to achieve that smooth finish in the buttercream, and that has a lot to do with consistency. Okay, a reminder that in tonight's class, like in the previous classes, we have a PDF already, okay, with the most important points that we'll be discussing here tonight. This PDF is available to download up to 2 hours after the class, and we are going to, there is a link available on the chat, and to get access to this PDF, you just click on the link. You're going to be taken to this page, and you can just download the PDF there, okay? Also, if you have any questions with regards to the content of this class or to the content of the course, which will open for enrollment after this class, and we'll talk about that later, you can just send us your questions on the chat. We are live there. So why consistency is important? Because you are going to be using the different consistencies of buttercream in different stages of your cake making process. And there is not just one ideal buttercream consistency. There are, I like to name that there are 3 main consistencies that you want to be able to control and to help you when you are creating your cake, okay? And the 3 main type of consistencies is soft, pipeable, and hard. Okay, and they are all important. For example, when you are assembling your cake, yeah, so you are layering your sponges and fillings, you want your buttercream to be pipeable. What is a pipeable buttercream? It is a buttercream that when you pipe, it is hard enough, but soft also enough to hold its shape. Okay, so as you pipe, the buttercream is going to hold its shape. It is particularly important in structuring, yeah, because it needs to be just hard enough to hold all that weight that is coming above, okay? And that's why when you are working in a very hot, humid weather, that can be a problem. Because, and we're going to talk about working in hot weather later, okay? But it can be a problem because your buttercream is too soft. If your buttercream is too soft, you won't hold the weight, okay, of the layers above, the layers of fillings and the layers of sponges. It can get quite heavy. So your buttercream needs to be hard enough. For a pipeable consistency, the buttercream needs to be around 19 to 20 degrees, okay? And if your buttercream is too soft, you can just pop your cake in the fridge just until it lowers the temperatures and get to a harder consistency. And I find that 19, 20 degrees is just good, not just to pipe and assemble your cake, but also for creating decorations, right? So if you are piping anything, flowers, if you are painting with buttercream, if you want to have to create details, whatever detail that is, and if you're using piping tips, you want your buttercream to have this pipeable consistency and have defined details of whatever piping tip you are using, okay? So having a pipeable consistency is important not just in the structuring of the cake, but also in the decorating, okay? And then we have a soft consistency. Why is a soft consistency important? Because when the buttercream is soft, that is when it has the least air bubbles, okay? So it's very good for coverage, for finishing your cake, okay? So when I'm frosting my cake, I want my buttercream not to be pipeable. I want it a little bit warmer than the one that I use to fill my cakes. For example, preparing your buttercream or coloring your buttercream, that's going to come as the last layer. I usually warm my buttercream up a bit and mix it again. It can be just using a spatula, mix it in. Maybe you can take, if you have your buttercream in a bowl and you can't stick your whole bowl in the microwave, I would just take, let's say, a third out of my bowl, put in a glass bowl, and warm that up for a few seconds until it's very warm, okay? Like not a liquid stage, but warm, and you see that it is super smooth, okay? And I'll mix that back in my bigger batch and mix them both together, and that get rid of a lot of air bubbles. The ideal temperature that I like my buttercream for frosting the cake, it's about 28 degrees, okay? So if you have a thermometer, a laser thermometer, you can just use that to check the temperature, okay? But that is just soft enough to give you a very, very smooth consistency, okay? In soft buttercream, you can also use that to create an abstract effect. When I created a dark layer of buttercream, that very thin, dark layer of buttercream that I spoke about in the first class, I use a very soft buttercream as well, just because it gives you a very, very beautiful finish, okay? The lower the temperature of the buttercream, the more bubbles it will have. For example, my kitchen, it is quite cold. If I leave the buttercream standing, that will accelerate the creation of bubbles. So when I come to frosting my cake, I will do this microwave trick where I take part of the buttercream, warm it up, and then mix it in again. So temperature is very important to make sure that you get a smooth buttercream. And of course, then we have the hard consistency. So when you put the cake in the fridge and your buttercream is hot, rock hard. For example, here, like I have a little bit of a cold buttercream here. You can literally, pick it up in pieces. And hard consistency is also important. When is it important? For transporting cakes, okay? The other day I had a student who said that she's new to buttercream and she finished decorating her cake with buttercream and the client was there to collect, and the client took the cake without the cake being in the fridge first, and of course it didn't last. And it also live in hot weather. So it's very important that the buttercream, before transport, the buttercream is cold, okay? You want that hard consistency to keep your cake safe, okay? Also, when hard consistency is important, when you're stacking, so we're making, wedding cake or a tiered cake, you're only going to be able to stack one cake on top of another because your buttercream is cold. Of course, you're going to use the dowels, you're going to create that structure, yeah? But you want your buttercream to be cold. Another way where hard consistency is important to create sharp edges. How do you create sharp edges? You're going to frost your cake and then you are going to leave that lip, yeah? You're going to take your cake into the freezer. Your buttercream is going to get hard and then you can just cut into it, okay? So hard buttercream is good to create sharp edges. You can also create effects, textures, right? So if you put your cake in the freezer, your buttercream is going to get hard enough after a few minutes. And then you can use the scraper to create a textured effect, create some dark patches, create like a distressed effect on the buttercream. Carving, as you see a lot on my cakes, you can carve into buttercream when it's cold. So you see, like every single consistency is important depending on what stage you are from your cake making process, right? So you want to be able to control them and switch between them as and when you need it, okay? Talking about working in hot weather. So for those of you who are based in hot countries, hot and humid countries, you have, of course, to, when working with buttercream, right? Buttercream is butter, and butter will suffer in hot weather. But there are a few things that you can do. So if you've just finished beating your buttercream and it's soft, you're going to take your buttercream to the fridge, okay, to cool down for about 10 minutes. Take it out, give it a mix. If it's too cold, just wait until it warms up a bit, but it needs to be pipeable. So we'll have to use much more the fridge than me, for example, here in the UK. So, okay, so your cake will take a few trips to the fridge. One very useful technique as well is to assemble your cake using acetate. So you're going to, assemble the first, second, up to the third, maybe layer of cake, and then you can wrap it in acetate, finish off, take your cake to the fridge. It's going to get cold. All that buttercream they've used to assemble is going to get cold and fix every single layer of your cake. And then you can take it out and frost your cake, all right? For frosting your cake, as I said, if your buttercream is a little bit on the soft side, that's actually good because the chances are it's going to have less bubbles and you're going to be able to give your buttercream a lovely finish. Okay, so by the time actually your cake is in the fridge, just setting, your assembly, by the time you take it off, your buttercream is going to be lovely to frost, all right? And then, of course, you're going to have to decorate that cake. So your cake is going to go in the fridge, and you're going to have to wait for your frosted cake to completely set, either in the fridge or in the freezer. Of course, in the freezer is going to take half the amount of time. But that is when then you're going to be able to create a decoration on top. It might be the case that needs decorating. Your buttercream is getting too soft, and you're going to have to place that back in the fridge or in the freezer again before you continue decorating. Again, when it comes to piping, because you want your buttercream to have all the details from the piping tip, you want it to be delicate, you want it to hold its shape, whatever details you are creating, you will be doing trips to the fridge as well to get the buttercream to the right consistency, the right temperature for that stage that you're working on, okay? And big issue is transport. So my tips, and here, believe me, in the UK can get very hot as well when in summer, and we have to make sure that our cakes are safe for transport. So the first thing is always to wait until your cake has been in the fridge for at least a couple of hours before boxing, before put it in the car, okay? Second tip is make sure that your car has not been under direct sunshine, has been parked in the shade, or has the air conditioning on, okay? I even place some ice bags at the back. So stacked cakes, wedding cakes, it's always transported in the boot of the car. And I make sure that I can have even some ice bags there. I used to order those vegetable boxes, recipe boxes, and they come with ice bags. And I use a few as well, just to keep the temperature down at the back of my car when it's too hot. I had one scary occasion where I had my 3-tier cake at the back of the car, and I was parked in front of the venue, but the street did not have, it was like a cul-de-sac. I could not turn my car, but I wasn't allowed in the venue. I was stuck there, and there was sunlight direct into the cake, and that damaged the top of my cake. So please make sure that your cake is not directly exposed to sunlight. But also, although buttercream is important to be cold, when it comes to transportation, you don't want the cake to be consumed cold, right? We know that cold buttercream is not as nice. It doesn't have a nice mouthfeel to it. When you come to eat the cake, you want the buttercream to have a soft consistency. So I always advise my customer, take the cake out of the fridge, leave it room temperature for a couple of hours before cutting into it, before eating it, okay? You want a nice soft buttercream. When eating it, it's much more flavorsome as well, okay? And so is the cake inside. Another struggle that you guys mention quite frequently, it's about cracks in the buttercream. And basically cracks have to do with movement. And depending on the direction of the crack or where it is in the cake, it can be a different issue. So for example, if you're getting a crack right at the base of the cake, right? So the cake, let's pretend, is fully frosted and you're getting a crack right there. That is because your board is not strong enough for the weight of your cake. This one, for example, is a 5mm board, and that is just about okay for 1-tier cakes, 6-7 inch cakes. I would switch for a thicker board if I'm making 2-tier cakes. So this one is a 5, I would use a 9-10mm board. And that's because the cakes are quite heavy. And if you imagine like your cake is cold in the fridge, when you take it out, when you put it in the car to transport it, if the board is not strong enough, sturdy enough, it will move. And of course, because your buttercream is really hard, it's going to crack at the base, okay? So that's the reason. So the solution is just to go with a thicker cake board, okay? If your crack is elsewhere on the cake, horizontally like that, that is movement within the cake, okay? So that could probably be because you have put too much filling, your filling is too soft. It kind of, after your buttercream is cold, the filling is kind of trying to escape, is expanding, and so then you're going to get a crack there. Or if you use, for example, too much syrup, okay, that could also be the reason for the crack on your buttercream, okay? And the solution is pretty much be mindful of the amount of filling they use on your cake. Make sure that it is the cake is well frosted. Make sure that you have enough buttercream on your contention rings to hold that filling safe inside, okay? And that will prevent your buttercream from cracking. When it comes to bubbles, right? Bubbles in the buttercream, that is a big issue, a big struggle that you all have. Oh, my buttercream has lots of bubbles. How do I get it smooth? And as I mentioned earlier in the class, it has to do with temperature, but not just that. There are, when I create my cakes, I'm mindful of bubbles throughout the whole process, since when I'm making my buttercream all the way to when I'm finishing the cake, okay? And I'm going to demonstrate here for you every single step that I take to make sure that I get a very smooth finish, all right? So, but the first thing you have to be mindful, when you see those images on Instagram about with beautiful buttercreams in the bowl being mixed with no bubbles whatsoever, that has a lot more to do with the quantity of buttercream that it's in the bowl rather than the recipe itself. If you are making a lot of buttercream, of course, the buttercream will cover the whisk attachments, and by covering the whisk attachments, you won't incorporate as much air, and consequently, your buttercream won't have as many bubbles. So it's not as much about the recipe, but every single step that comes after it. So as I said, temperature plays a big part in bubbles. So when I come to frost my cake, I make sure that my buttercream is nice and soft, with temperature about 28 degrees. Because I'm in the UK and it's quite cold and my kitchen is quite cold, if I leave my buttercream standing in the counter, it will get hard and you have that spongy consistency. That means that I will need to take it, to put it in the microwave and re-whip it again to make sure that it is nice and smooth, okay? So the opposite of those of you who are in hot weather and needs to make more trips to the fridge, in order to have control of my buttercream consistency, I need to make more trips to the microwave. So the temperature that you use your buttercream to frost your cake is important. So make sure that when you come to frosting, your buttercream is nice and warm. And if you have your buttercream at around that temperature, it is going to be a lovely, lovely soft consistency. And then when you applied your buttercream in your cake and you come to scrape it, that is another step where you have to be mindful of bubbles. First, the longer you take, right, to frost the cake, the more that you scrape, the more bubbles it will create. Okay, so what you can do is try and do, and that will come with experience, but try and frost your cake as fast as you can, okay? But by the time you've taken away, that you're scraping your cake and you've taken away all that excess buttercream, and you stop using your scraper, and then you get mine. You stop using your scraper as a scraper and use it to smooth out the cake, okay? So the angle changes and the force that you apply onto the cake changes as well. Doing all these steps, making sure that I use my buttercream very freshly whipped to cover my cake, make sure I don't take too long to frost my cake, make sure that I use my scraper to smooth out the bubbles before the cake going to the fridge. And then as my last step is to, with the cake cold, give that nice little finish with the scraper as well. And by doing all of the steps, you should end up with a very professional looking cake with a beautiful, perfect white canvas for your decorating. So I'm just going to do a demo now. I'm going to frost this cake, and illustrate all these tips that I gave you, so you know exactly what I mean. And hopefully you can apply that to your cake and see the difference straight away. So when you're filling in your piping bag, make sure that it's wrapped around your hand and you use this part of your hand to clean your spatula. And also, you don't want the outside of your bag to get dirty with buttercream because it becomes kind of really slippery. You can just do that. Even use the scraper to bring that buttercream down. I cut the tip of the piping bag about 1 centimeter. Good. Okay, so I'm going to start from the top. The thickness of this layer, it's about 5 mil to 1 centimeter thick. It's really up to you how thick you want your buttercream layer to be. I'm going to level that with my spatula. So the first step, yes, my buttercream has been freshly made. I do not leave it standing for too long in the counter. So if the temperature of my kitchen, let's say I've made my buttercream, leave it here, and then I go and take the kids to school or answer an email. By the time I come back, even though if it's only a few minutes, I will have to re-whip my buttercream because it will start changing texture. Okay, so if I want it really smooth, I want to make sure that I use it straight away. So I start applying on the sides. All the way to the top, all the way until it meets my top layer here. Then you can start scraping. .30 degree angle to the cake, and then you are going to take all this excess buttercream. It's very important that the scraper is resting on the board, so to make sure that we have this 90 degree angle. Okay, your scraper is going to really help you with that, and it will ensure that your cake is not tilted. It should come out very straight. So at this stage, I'm not really worrying about, the bubbles in my buttercream. I'm just scraping the excess off. You can see that there are some gaps, so we are going to fill that gap in a bit. So I get my piping bag again, fill in those gaps. You can use the spatula and take the buttercream directly from the bowl, or you can use your piping bag, doesn't really matter. I still have enough on my piping bag, so I'm just going to use that. So I've filled in the gaps. Now I'm going to scrape again. I now have much less gaps, so I know that I'm going to stop scraping quite soon, but I'm still just making sure that every single bit is covered. Okay, let me see, it's pretty there. Oh look, I still have one gap here, so I'm going to take my spatula, fill it in. Sometimes you get some air bubbles, and so you can pop them using your spatula, fill it in again with buttercream, and use your scraper to smooth it out. Right, so all my gaps have been filled, but my buttercream is not super smooth the way I like it yet. So what I do now is I stop using the scraper to take away buttercream, okay? And I'm going to use it to smooth the buttercream that I already have there. Of course, a little bit will come out, and you have to clean the spatula every time you scrape, but it's very important not to apply too much force, and also to turn the turntable slower and lower the angle of the spatula to the cake. So you do it very slowly and take the spatula out whilst you're still turning the turning table, not to leave that mark, that vertical mark, okay? So like no bubbles on this side, and you won't be able to see it from there. The camera is quite far away, but just by using the spatula to smooth the buttercream, I can see a big difference in finish between where I've just smoothed there and the part of the cake, the half of the cake that I still haven't done that. And I can see the marks on the buttercream. I can see a little bit of bubbles there. Okay, so I'm going to do that throughout the entire cake. Again, also before I'm already turning the turntable, before the spatula touches the cake, okay? That also avoids to leave that mark. I am hardly applying any force whatsoever, any pressure whatsoever. I'm just literally resting the scraper onto the buttercream. You could finish here if you want to, but as a last step, what I like to do is to, at this stage, take my cake into the freezer for up to 10 minutes. And when it comes out, the buttercream is going to be quite cold, and I'm going to give a last scrape just to make sure it's absolutely smooth and with a lovely finish. Okay? So let's take this to the freezer. So the cake has been in the freezer for almost 10 minutes. I'm going to take it out and we take a look at it and do our last finishing step. Okay, so the buttercream is pretty smooth already. And I'm going to use my scraper just as I did when I was moving it out before the cake went into the fridge. So no pressure. And I'm just going to very slowly rest the scraper onto my buttercream. And literally, like, the amount of buttercream that comes out, because it's cold, it's very little. Okay, it's really just fine-tuning and making sure it's super smooth. Okay, if you were to do your sharp edges, this is the moment that you would do it. So you would cut off this rim and scrape it until you get a very flat top. Okay, don't need to do that today. If you have any little marks or scraper marks from when you were frosting the cake, you would take it out now. Okay, so I'm not sure if you can see, there's a little mark here. I'm just going to scrape that off. And that's it. I'm very happy. And I've finished frosting my cake. It's ready for my decorating. So in today's class, we saw the importance of playing with different consistencies in the buttercream. So you have the soft consistency, we have the pipeable consistency, we have the hard consistency. I told you the temperatures of each and how important it is to have control over them. Yeah? Using your appliances to achieve the consistency you need at that specific stage of your cake making process. We also spoke about how to deal with hot weather, tips about how assemble cakes, decorate cakes, and transport cakes in hot weather. And I gave you a few tips on how to deal with that. We spoke about cracks in the buttercream and, of course, the step-by-step process to get this beautiful finish, get rid of bubbles, okay? And if you apply all of the steps that I just taught you in this class, I have no doubt that you are going to achieve a beautiful finish on your cake. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed. I hope you apply it. When you post your beautiful cakes, tag me on Instagram. And if you also would like to study some cake decorating with me, I would like to invite you to my course, Buttercream in Style, which I'm going to open enrollment this evening. Okay, so let's talk about the course a little bit. Buttercream in Style is my most comprehensive cake decorating course. There I teach my base, sponge recipes, fillings, my buttercream recipe, methods and everything, assembling, creating a lovely white canvas, and a long list of Alison Rosa signature decorating techniques. So if you identify yourself with my style of cake decorating using buttercream, you will really enjoy this course. So you'll be learning how to create a semi-naked texture, how to create fresh flower arrangements, so contemporary fresh flower arrangements on your cakes, how to create sharp edges, abstract textures. So you're going to be painting on with buttercream, creating those lovely abstract textures. Of course, Alice and Rosa signature florals, dark cakes, square cakes, and also the most recent designs as well, which includes the abstract butterflies, floral crown, the vintage design, which includes the striped florals, and the hand-painted tulips, okay, which is made with a palette knife. So you're also going to have access to a new piping class, where I show you all my favorite piping tips and how to use each one of them in different ways to create very beautiful decorations, and you create your own decorations. So the access to the course is for 2 years, and all the future updates are included, okay, in these 2 years free of charge, okay? What else? After enrolling, you have access to the introductory classes and the full content. So the full content of the course is released after 2 weeks. And the reason for that is you can have a taste of the course. So it gives you the chance to try the classes, watch part of the classes, and decide whether the course is for you. If you decide that the course is not for you, which I doubt, then you receive a full refund automatically. Okay? In terms of the video classes, they are pre-recorded. So that means that you can watch them at any time, as many times you need. And the videos are professionally filmed with excellent lighting and image quality, so you can see all the beautiful details of the decorations. All of this information is available on the course page, which you can access on the link in the chat. And also, upon completing the course, you receive a digital certificate in your name. Now let's get to the conditions I mentioned earlier. Always on the first day of enrollment, I like to offer students the opportunity to join the course for a special price. And this time you are able to join the course for the same price as 2023, which was $327. This is for the first 24 hours only, all right? So after that, the price is then updated to 2024 pricing, which is $367, and the enrollment closes on Monday. Also, the first 30 students to enroll this evening will enter a giveaway, and one of them will have the course paid by me. So if you join this evening and is lucky enough to have your name drawn, then the entire course will be on me, all right? And the giveaway results will be announced via Instagram later in the week. In terms of payment methods, the payment is processed by Hotmart, and Hotmart is one of the world's largest online course platforms. So your data will be 100% secure, and you can use credit or debit card, and depending on your country, other methods of payment is available as well, like PayPal, Google Pay, and you also have the option to pay in 3 installments, okay, up to 3 installments. So you either choose to pay all at once, split your payment in 2, or in 3 installments. All right? If you have any questions about payments, you can get in touch via Instagram, via email, and also we have a support channel or on WhatsApp, so you can also send us a message there. And that's it for this evening. Thank you everyone for being with me in these classes, and they were planned and executed with great care for you without skimping on content. I know that you are leaving here filled with knowledge, and I feel truly fulfilled to share a bit of what I know with you, okay? Be sure that in the course there's much more, and they will be really taking care of you, holding your hand and help you through every step of the way. And enrollment is now open, and I hope to see you shortly on the course.